Thanks, Jason.
Okay, we have a quorum. So without delay, I'll call the Finance and Budget Committee meeting of August 26, 2020 to order. First with questions. Commissioner Callahan, do you have any questions this week?
I have none.
Okay. Commissioner O'Neill?
I do not right now, no. Sorry.
Okay. Commissioner Shea?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have a question about the NeoGov subscription. Danette, can you just real quickly tell me what type of services you guys are purchasing from NeoGov?
Sure, Commissioner Shea, right now it's pretty much focused on the HR piece for the application. Posting of jobs and application process is pretty much what we limited that NeoGov to. Jason, you're on. IT is not using it for anything right now. It's just an application that's built in, correct?
I believe that is correct. I would have to verify.
It's just the HR component, module component of it related to the application process and job posting.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anything further? Commissioner O'Neill.
Thank you, Chairman. Danette, this is a question I would want to ask you for 2 days, and I wasn't able to call you to ask. So great to see you. I'll ask you now. The new funds that have come out for the BLDC's offering. I'm just curious. Do you have any insight on that? And with that being said, I know if this is the wrong place to ask, I'm sorry. I didn't even get time or chance to even call Joe or anybody on that. I'm just curious.
So, Commissioner O'Neill, Chief Executive Palmer's on, and he serves on that board. The funds that I just most recently read about, I think if you're discussing the ones that Joe spoke about maybe in the last week or so in some press releases, or if you're wondering, they're not related to the ARCO funds directly, to the Anacon ARCO funds that we used and allocated earlier in the spring. These are new dollars, but I'll let the Chief Executive jump in.
Yeah, thanks, Danette. I believe these are from the CARES Act money that the state has allocated for these purposes for people that are suffering from businesses that are suffering through the COVID because of loss of business. They're eligible to apply for some more funds, and it went to the the lead economic development division of the county. So with the LDC, they secured some loans to give out these grants.
Thank you.
Anything further? More questions? Annette, do you have anything you'd like to add?
I do. Just in relative to the question that was asked last week in regards to the development payment that went to CryptoWatt, I think there was some questions on that. Karen reported back to me, and she felt that it might have needed a little further clarification. So how that development agreement worked that was approved by council, recommended by the TED board and then approved by council, is that CryptoWatt now makes up a significant portion of that base value. So when it's the largest taxpayer in that district. So when the base value of the other properties declined, the TED was made whole, or the county actually was made whole on the base value based on that percentage. So to begin with, they make the base whole. That's the first kind of initial step with the taxes. And then of their total tax bill remaining that is allocated an increment to the TED district, 80% of that value goes back to them because of the development agreement to be used to expand and make additions. And then 15% goes into a reserve fund. So it's not given back to CryptoWatt, and it's not free money until the development agreement is fulfilled for the TED. So eventually that money could be used further development, maybe with CryptoWatt or other partners in that TED district. And then the remaining 5% is just money that the TED district can use. So I think there was a little bit of question about how that 80% to 15% and that 5% worked, and just in general questions about the base. And then I think there was a couple questions in regards to the operations of CryptoWatt and where the money's going. So the reason why they delayed their tax, or what's been reported to us is why they delayed their tax payment, was just merely because of the transfer of the receivership. And so now we're comfortable with the current owners of it, and we really have no concerns about future tax payments being made timely. They just held their payment to make sure everything was processed correctly in the receivership.
Danette, can you tell me tell us the length of the development agreement? Is it a 5-year?
21. I think it ends in 21. I'm not positive. 1 second, because that's what Kristen was trying to dial in for. And she was having some issues here, so. And I didn't realize that that's what she was doing, so. On my spreadsheet, I have it ending in 21, but.
Okay. Commissioner O'Neill.
You know what? I'm sorry. It isn't fully. That's not the full timeline of the spreadsheet. I'm sorry. So in 2033.
Their development agreement is 2033? Thank you.
Yeah. The estimated amount is till 2033.
Commissioner O'Neill.
And she did. Kristen just responded back with the caveat that the maximum amount of payback is $5.5 million. So if we hit the $5.5 million, I couldn't find that number. I have a $6 million number, but I think if she just corrected, it's $5.5 million. So if their taxes and that 80% reimbursement is only 5.5. So if they hit that number before the development agreement expires, then it ends.
Thank you. Commissioner O'Neill, do you have a question?
Oh, yes, thank you, Chairman Morgan. Chairman McDonough. Sorry, Brendan. Danette, so with that being said, through 2033, the 80%, so they pay 80% of their taxes now?
No, they pay,
or have it backwards?
No, okay. So let's step back. And maybe Kristen and I can share the spreadsheet with you tomorrow too, just so you can kind of see how the development agreement works. So they pay a full amount on their value, on their taxable value, and they have several different types of classifications of property, but they pay a full value. And then in the beginning, they have to make, just like all the other partners out there, they make the base value whole. So they make the local taxing jurisdictions whole on that base value year. So that means the school district in Butte-Silver, we're all made whole on that first. That's the first step. Then after that, the increment of their tax, the amount of taxes they pay that's attributed to the increment, so the amount of money that goes into the fund for the TED district, 80% of that goes back to them. That's part of the development agreement, up to $5.5 million. And for illustration purposes, we have 2033 on this spreadsheet here, but it could be much faster. There's no time length. It's just 5.5 million.
Gotcha.
Is what they get back. Then they get, of the total amount that they pay to, or of the remaining amount of their tax that they pay, 15% goes to a reserve for future development that can be used after the development agreement is satisfied, so after we hit the 5.5. And then the remaining 5% is just used within the TED district itself.
Good deal. Just one more follow-up on that.
Commissioner O'Neill.
So the positive thing on this, because that's where, like, in the past week or so, I've been finding myself defending CryptoWatt, and for whatever reason I am, because I feel like they've put a lot of money out there into that, and it's, and then Butte-Silver is paying the tax, but whatever. The payback to Butte for the county is what? Is we have this huge building. It's taken over.
You know, we'd have to run the numbers on this spreadsheet for you, but I can tell you that to begin with, we'll step back into it. And in the years when MSC was having difficult times paying taxes, they were in arrears. So nobody was getting any money then. And so, as a result of the sale, now we have a taxpayer that can meet the value and is paying timely with their taxes to all the taxing jurisdictions in excess, significant amount in excess. And then we have those funds that are available, that 5% that's available to be used within the TED district for future infrastructure development. And then the money that they're reserving, or the funds that are being reserved, can be added to for the substation upgrades that are out there. So,
which is the fall of the state?
I have Kristen verifying that I just stated that right. I just texted her because she can't get in, but I'm pretty sure that is how it is. I'm trying to read through. We did this spreadsheet a while ago, and I'm trying to verify. It was part of the development agreement that you had before you at council.
And I know we went over it at one time, and I just appreciate the going over it again. At some point, I'm going to make time and ask you. I'll ask you guys more questions about it. Again, as I'm out there defending CryptoWatt, I'm kind of stopping my tracks. I'm going, I don't know why I'm defending CryptoWatt, but I love it, and it's a great thing. So now, I'm, at some point, need more help on what I'm defending. So I appreciate that. Thanks.
Commissioner O'Neill, I'm quickly doing a spreadsheet here right now, so I don't feel comfortable just giving you these numbers until I verify them.
No problem.
And Kristen and I'll work through it, but we can show you how much money, we'll distribute it to all the Finance and Budget Committee, but we can illustrate for you how much money they contribute to the base, so how much the taxing jurisdictions out there receive from just having CryptoWatt there. And then we can show you the amount of funds that are available and then the amount that we can gain in the future once the development agreement is satisfied. So we can show you that pretty easily.
Cool. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Chairman McDonough, if I might add to this story.
Chief Executive Palmer.
When this thing was first taking place, they have put in over $100 million worth of infrastructure improvements in that facility out there. And it created numerous construction jobs. There were crews working 24/7 almost out there trying to get that thing up and running, which they did. And then the owner at the time had some difficulties, of course, and went into receivership. But now there is a new owner. Kevin Washington is pretty much the majority owner of it. And he is contemplating putting further upgrading all the servers once again, which is going to be a huge project out there, more money put into that plant. And if for some reason it falls apart, then they quit making their payments or whatever, Butte-Silver would own a lot of that infrastructure, namely the substation, which would be a huge tool in our tool basket for economic development in that area. So it's a win-win situation. It's been a good project, and it ran into a few road bumps when the previous owner ended up in prison, but it's all taken care of. It went through receivership, and they're out of receivership now, and they have a stable ownership going on right now. So we look forward to a great relationship with them out there.
And I think if we share some of these spreadsheets that we have, they're pretty easy to follow, but if you have future questions, we can definitely sit down and walk through them with you after we share them with you.
Thank you. Appreciate it, guys.
Okay, give me just a second here. Okay, anything further? Commissioner O'Neill.
Sorry, last question. I just want to
Okay.
go. I forgot to ask this last week, on some of the chairs, the fire commission people don't get paid anything. Am I correct? And the police commission, they make $50 a month. I'm just curious what the difference is. Why the police commission would make 50 and the fire commission wouldn't make anything.
Executive Palmer.
That's a good
In that
question.
question, I'm not
We asked that. We asked
don't
that all
agree with the hard work of the either commissions or whatever. It's just, to me, it doesn't make any. Not that it makes sense or doesn't. It's just, it's a question, and
Yeah.
love a great answer.
It has been that way for almost 30 years now, I can tell you that. I really don't. There's never really been an exact answer why it's been like that, other than I believe in the code it states the dollar amount, but other than that, there's not. And then it's pretty explicit in the code, what the roles and responsibilities of each one of those commissions, but other than it's in code, so we follow code.
Commissioner Callahan.
Thanks, Chairman McDonough. I just had a quick one for Danette. Danette, now that majority of our street lights have been changed to LED, have we noticed any change? I'm under the impression that it's supposed to drop the power bill about 50%. Have we noticed that yet, or is it too soon?
So, Commissioner Callahan, we haven't seen that significant change yet in the districts. I can tell you the amount of funds that we levied this year in those lighting districts, and we being the SID department of Pat Reardon and then Tim Cassidy working with Pat Reardon. We do not own, for the most part, the lights and poles. So in our bill is also a maintenance fee assessed in there. So it's not just the electrical piece of it. There's just very few lights and poles that we actually own in the community. So we haven't seen any significant change yet. That doesn't mean it won't happen. And I'm not positive. I'd have to meet with Pat to ask him what percentage has been really converted over to LED. Because I don't believe, at this point right now, I'm not sure that we have a full system of LED lights.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
Commissioner McDonough?
Yes.
Just to follow up, I just want to let you know, because you'll be reading about other communities getting CARE Act funds from the state of Montana pool. So we're still working through that. We did submit for reimbursement well over a month ago, and Lucy Hansen is the lead for our responses back. We've held, myself and Karen and Lucy have had many communications with Department Administration, and some people from the Department of Commerce, and I'm not positive where our two other auditor people are coming from, on the funds. We have some dispute over what we feel we are entitled to under what the Treasury is stating that we're entitled to is a little bit different than what we're now finding that we could get reimbursed for. And so we're still going through that process, but hopefully by next Wednesday night, I'll be able to report to you at least a dollar amount that we will have negotiated to receive. That doesn't mean that we won't later continue to seek reimbursement for those funds that might have been declined. It's been a very long process, very kind of stressful dealing with the process because, when the elements changed, they were constantly changing on what was reimbursable and what was not reimbursable and who was to get reimbursed for what costs. One example that I could share with you is that we were partners with Gallatin County on buying some PPE, mainly face masks. And we spent about $20,840 is what we spent. And a few other communities spent the same, and Gallatin County spent the same, but they had the contact to immediately get the supplies. And our internal committee voted to move forward with getting that PPE, because back in the spring it was like gold trying to get PPE. It was really difficult. So we felt very lucky and fortunate that Gallatin County had contacted Dendeney to seek these supplies. And at that time, we felt they would definitely qualify for 2 different funding sources to get reimbursed. So we submitted that on our reimbursement request, and it's being denied because they're saying that Gallatin County was the main purchaser of the supplies. So Gallatin County has to request full reimbursement, and then we have to request our money to be reimbursed to us from Gallatin County. And right now, I think that's not an issue this early in the reimbursement process. What concerns me going forward is there's only a limited pot of money available for local governments. So people aren't going to be willing to partner as much if you're the one that's going to get caught holding the bag for a bunch of PPE if other communities can't be reimbursed for those. So that is just kind of one of the smaller elements that we're running into. We're running into some different pay types. We chose to be really transparent in our pay types related to law enforcement and fire and our different pay codes. And we are finding out now that is almost to our detriment, because other communities rolled in a number to a base value and it's being accepted, but because we broke ours out, some of our pay codes are not being accepted. So right now, that is our big portion that we're going to be continuing our efforts to seek reimbursement under, because we feel falls and qualifies underneath the CARES Act funding. So.
Commissioner McDonough, if I could add to that story, I've got to thank the Finance and Budget Department. They have gone above and beyond what was necessary to submit for these reimbursements, but as Danette always is, very thorough. And the book that they sent over, it's really backfiring because you went into so much detail. It probably would have been better for us if we just kept it plain and simple. But another detail that shows how difficult this whole process is that on the call today, it was a town hall meeting with all the departments in Helena and the League of Cities and MACO, but they're advising cities, even though you receive this refund right now, or the payment from the CARES Act that the state received, they're advising you probably shouldn't spend that. You should put it in reserve and hold it there until you're actually sure that you're going to be allowed to spend that. Because when it first came out, the CARES Act that the federal government said it was not for reimbursement for local government. But through the CARES Act at the state level, they're allowing us to be reimbursed, but it could backfire on everyone. So they're advising, actually, if you get $2 million, don't go out and spend it. Hold on to it as long as you can, just so there's no repayment problems down the road. That's how goofy this whole thing is. It's just crazy. Some of the stipulations that they put on some of this stuff, like the one that Danette had just mentioned, where we got the stuff from Gallatin County, they get reimbursed, so now they have to reimburse us for the money we paid them. It's just crazy. It's mind-boggling. And our department up there in Finance and Budget is overworked. They're understaffed, and the hours that went in to do that, and then they ship it back and say, well, we're only paying half of what you submitted. Resubmit again and take out what we didn't pay. And it's just, we should have to be able to hire a couple of auditing firms or accounting firms to handle this whole process. And it's just ludicrous, the steps they make you go through. But our Finance and Budget Department did an excellent job. It's probably baffled the auditors over there when they saw how much detail was into it. But I've got to thank our department for doing what they did.
Well, thanks, Dave. I can't take the credit. It's definitely been a lot of work on Lucy and Karen and then the whole staff, because payroll had to integrate with it. And then we just pulled everybody and anybody to help out with that. But just to step back to what Dave said too, it's been an ongoing conversation in all the town halls we've had and several other meetings that we had, is don't take the money and start spending it. You can take the money They gave us a fund to plunk it into, a fund number in the bars, the budgetary accounting reporting system. And they told us, put it there and invest it till we get clear guidance. And I would have to make that recommendation to the Finance and Budget Committee and to Council, just because the guidelines, like I said, have been ever changing from day one. So definitely till we're really comfortable on what the funds can be used for, because we definitely would not want to have to turn around and come up with the dollars to reimburse for expenditures that weren't allowable if we spent the money. So.
Okay, we're at 6:28 at this point. Do I have a motion on the expenditure list for fiscal year 20 and 21?
At this time, I will make a motion that we have reviewed the expenditure list, for fiscal year 21 in the amount of $1,210,788.59. And the expenditure list for fiscal year 20 in the amount of $3,743.16.
Second.
Commissioner Shea, could you repeat 21 again? Just make sure I wrote it down correctly.
It is $1,210,788.59.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second on the floor to approve the check runs for fiscal year 20 and 21. And a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. See everybody here in a couple minutes, or most everybody. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you. Hello? How you doing? Okay, I'll let him know. Sounds good, I'll let him know. Good. No, we're just in committee meetings now. I just finished, and Dan's going to start his, so I got to run here in a minute, or I got to run now, but I'll chat with you later if you want about that. specifics of what we're asking. And
Okay.
so we're going to request MDT, but I don't have that information. Yeah, we need to round up all the interested parties that have a stake in recreation in the area, and I'll get those specifics. And, you know, it's pretty much done for this season. I mean, there's a little bit left here with into the fall, but if there is maybe resolved over the winter months, where we have time, then it'll be ready for next recreation season or next spring. So,
Okay.
meantime, I'll round up the interested parties.
Okay. Thanks, Brendan. Mr. Neary, are you there? Do you have any updates on your end, or is it still waiting in MDT land?
Commissioner Olson, we were just waiting in, we're actually waiting in Brendan McDonough land. Butte-Silver Bowl can bring it to MDT, but we have to know what we're asking for.
Okay. All right. So basically we had to identify what we wanted and bring that forward to MDT.
Yes.
Commissioner McDonough.
Chairman Olson, so when I put in the communication, it was based on a request from one of the cyclists in the area that is involved with the cycling club, but I think there were a couple of other interested groups. I just need to round it up because I don't know who they are, to be honest. So I'll make contact with my contact and go from getting them together.
Okay. All right.
My fault at all.
Oh, not a problem. There's a lot of stuff going on, and I don't know that this is top priority right now. So, any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, we'll hold it in abeyance until next meeting. Okay. Second item on the agenda is petition number 2020-01. Patrick Reardon, Land System Administrator, requesting Council Commissioners authorize a petition to close and vacate a platted public alleyway has been filed with the Land Systems Division of the Planning Department as provided for within Ordinance number 362. At the last meeting, we made a motion to schedule a public meeting or public hearing on the petition and forward to the council, seconded by Callahan, passed unanimously. That meeting has been publicly noticed. It is scheduled for, let me get here, I think the 2nd of September. Yeah, the 2nd of September. And so we'll hold this in abeyance after that public meeting is being held. Any other items on the agenda that we missed? Okay. Hearing none, does anyone have a motion to adjourn?
I'll motion we adjourn.
Second.
Okay, motion adjourned and made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you, and on to the next meeting. Thanks, folks.
Thank you.
we have 3, don't we?
Need 4. We're waiting on Commissioner Olson to get back to his office at this point. Our other 2 committee members are excused this evening unless another at-large member jumps on.
I was already counting you.
Oh, there's Commissioner Callahan. Perfect. I didn't see him. All right, we do have 4. Thank you. Commissioner Callahan,
you just run into his office to get on.
Commissioner Callahan, you might make our quorum until he gets there.
Sure.
Perfect.
He did this the last time. When I was the chair, he left like 2 minutes. He left at about 6:57, and then he called me and he said, "Has the meeting started?" And I said, "It's already over."
Efficiency. I'm going to call it to order. So I call the judiciary. Well, is that lean? I don't see the county attorney, so maybe I should wait to call it.
She's here. I just seen her walk through the hall. She should be hooked up in a second.
Okay, I'll wait a minute or 2.
Hey, Sean, in answer to your question from earlier today on the Railroad Authority, I guess, is there a commissioner that's interested in serving on that authority, like yourself or anybody else wants to volunteer? Oh, you're muted.
Commissioner Frederickson, you're on mute.
Sorry.
Here you telling me where to go.
I mean, I would be willing to do it at the start, and until we find someone that's maybe a little bit more appropriate that actually knows things about railroads, because I don't know much. But I'd be willing to do it to get it started.
Okay.
I'll make the concurrence to get on that committee.
Unless there's another commissioner that wants to do it or that knows about railroads. But,
yeah, I'd be willing. If you know of anyone, I know 0 about railroads.
Perfect.
And I know less than that, so.
Well, if you want to start out on it and just sort of, then you can keep the council informed on what's going on as we move forward and see if
all the railroads were gone before they left before I was born. So I don't know anything.
Yeah, we'll get you.
I have rode the Amtrak though. I had rode the Amtrak from Whitefish to Portland, and I have rode it's from Portland to Seattle. So I guess I do have a little bit of experience on the passenger rail.
That's good enough. You're it.
Well, it was a lot of time in the dining cart. With
Get you some striped bib overalls and an engineer's hat, and you'll be safe.
I'll give you $10 if you wear an engineer's hat to the next council meeting.
I mean, the way David Strohmeyer's into it, I wouldn't put it past him to show up in overalls and an engineering hat.
Go check over in Eileen's office and see if she's.
Thank you.
Should be on in 1 second. She's having a little technical difficulty.
Thank you.
Got her watch.
Commissioner McDonough, are you guys, I'm sorry, I had to step away from my desk for a few minutes. Are you guys adjourned or?
No, we haven't started yet. We're just waiting for County Attorney Joyce to assist us.
Okay. Okay, sorry.
No worries.
Palmer, your mic is still on. I don't know if you knew that.
All right, at this time, I'll call the Judiciary Committee meeting of August 26, 2020 to order. Let's start with the claims first. First one's to 100 NNRP LLC for $6,322.17 for a tax assignment refund. Second is Lincoln Roofs and Construction for $30 for a refund on a building permit. Third is Kimberly Cook for $600 for a demo bond refund. 4 is UDAP Industries in the amount of $9,350 for a paving bond refund. 5th is Levi Mork in the amount of $200 for a demo bond refund. And 6th is David Brothers in the amount of $1,000 for a right-of-way bond refund. If there's any questions or discussion, I'll entertain a motion. If not, Commissioner Frederickson.
Thank you, Chairman McDonough. I'd make a motion that we approve the claims that you just listed.
Thank you. Okay, I've got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Sorry, my... Technical difficulty with my battery. All right. The second then is number 1, resolution number 2020-31, a resolution of intent to alter the boundaries of the city county of Butte-Silver, Montana solid waste special district to include the boundaries of the town of Walkerville and providing for an effective date herein. County Attorney Joyce.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I think August 28th, which is Friday, is the last day that people have to submit protests. So I don't know if you want to continue to hold this in the committee until that date passes, which is probably maybe what you should do. I don't know. You could move it to final reading because the date will be passed by the time the full council considers this resolution, I guess, which would be September, what's the first? Wednesday, 2nd. So you could move it to final reading, and then at the September 2nd meeting, the council could the full council could look and see if there are any written protests or if there's a sufficient number of them not to be able to pass the resolution. But the deadline falls in between this meeting and next week's meeting, so I don't know that there's any reason to hold on to it because at next week's meeting, the full council could then look at the number of protests that were received and know whether or not this resolution is able to be passed.
Thank you. Commissioner Frederickson.
Thank you, Chairman McDonough. I guess is there any reason to not hold it? I'm just thinking, we're not under any timeline or anything like that to get this through. So if we do decide to hold it and wait for the results, is there any reason? I guess what is the advantages to holding it or disadvantages?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Frederickson, I think the disadvantage is that they need time to be able to put this assessment on the tax statements. And so if it's held up for another 2 weeks in judiciary, then it won't go to the council until the 3rd week of September, and that might be too late. I see Ms. Gleason has joined the meeting, and she probably can verify the date that they need to have this prepared in order to have the tax statements ready and be able to put this assessment on the tax statements. Is that correct, Nat?
Commissioner McDonough, Commissioner Frederickson, just to add to what Eileen stated, that is correct. It would be best if we just move this forward as quick as we could, and then that allows that your time for discussion, and then if it was passed, it gives us sufficient time for our SID department to place these on the tax rolls. They have to go parcel by parcel. It's not as simple because it's a residential, so there's some exclusions we can look at, but then they would have to also go back and look through an audit to make sure that they have the right parcels picked up. So it does take some time.
Thank you, Commissioner Olson.
Well, that's all. Sorry, I'll just follow up, and I mean that's all I needed to know. So I'll make a motion that we move it to final reading.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. So it's moved to final reading. Number 2, resolution number 2020-45. A resolution authorizing and approving the sale of real property formerly known as 611 South Idaho Street, owned by the City and County of Butte-Silver, State of Montana, described as Lot 25 of Block 4 of the Travonia Edition, parcel number 000043610, to the City County of Butte-Silver, Montana, to Breinfeld Investments, LLC, in accordance with the provisions of the Butte-Silver Municipal Code and providing for an effective date herein. County Attorney Joyce?
Mr. Chairman, this resolution could be moved to final reading. It was prepared after the council approved the communication from Pat Reardon, the Land Records Administrator, after this was considered by the Land Sales Committee and recommended the sale of this property. So unless somebody has any questions about it, it can be moved to final reading.
Thank you. Commissioner Olson?
I'll move it to final reading.
Okay. Motion on the floor.
Second.
The second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Let's move to final reading. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
Sorry I was so late.
Everyone.
No worries.
See you in a few minutes.